And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, here we go. Here we are. Welcome to the 100 Watts and a Wire podcast. My name is Christian. My call sign's Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. Oh, what was that?
Ooh,
I just had an idea or something happened. Episode 355. Scotty's here. Sidecar Steve is here. And our listeners are always welcome to join us for the live stream on YouTube. And that way you can engage with us within the chat. You can actually direct. I was just saying to Steve, they can actually direct which direction we go because, the topics that come up, if you have questions, put a Q in front of it, drop it in the chat. So this is your show. It's a show about amateur radio and for the amateur radio operator. Now, some of you may be saying, see, child, why do you sound like this? So I will say that always this has been a documentary style podcast. It kind of follows along the journey. And after it got through my journey, we picked up new people to follow, and we've grown and grown. But anyway, we're documenting time. And so in short, on Thursday, I tested positive. And I've been dealing with the symptoms for the last 3 days. Oh, the fever, the headache, it's a lot different. That's all I can say. It's a lot different. It's gone through the whole house, my wife, the kids, and finally me. And this actually helps. There's waves where it's really bad and I'm down and I got to rest. And but this kind of being with the brothers and the girls, hey, yo, how you doing? And the voice gets better when I'm sick. It'll get really better a couple of days from now.
White.
It'll be Barry White.
Where's the wah-wah pedal?
Hey, you took all the covers, girl. So start bringing up grievances of the lovemaking. Why'd you got to do that? What kind of toenail is that? Oh, girl. So I'm trying to stay in good spirits, stay with my brothers to keep the focus. Talking about focus, though, I had very little yesterday. It was so awful. I was reading, as I do in the morning. I like to read the wires and the news, and I couldn't get past the first few lines. I just couldn't stay focused enough. So anyway, without going in deep detail here, I'm choosing to show a different side. This is more of something you'd see on a Sunday night net. Just didn't want anything in my face particular today. So, already.
Right out of the gates.
Well, it's probably a good a time as any to let you know that the Sorry Sherrie line is now in the 100 Watts and a Wire merch, the shop. The Sorry Sherrie. If you're into that, go to 100wattsandawire.com and check out the Sorry Sherrie. There's a sweatshirt. There's T-shirts. Yes, Ricardo, the brain fog. And like that's like the last thing I need. You know what I mean? Like some long-lasting brain fog. But check out your Sorry Sherrie merchandise now. Limited run. Patrick and I thought maybe just a month and we'll see how it goes. But it's kind of a cute thing. And apparently, Steve got the word that she fired somebody. I don't know who.
Oh, it's your makeup artist.
Right. That's another thing. I can't do the front cameras now because of the makeup. I need pancake is what they call it. What are you going to do? Anyway, cheers to everybody. Thanks for coming by. We appreciate you. It's called pancake, especially on the bald guys. That's what they call that. Some things we have scheduled to talk about today. We'll see how far we can go with all that sort of stuff. And I know I owe a weekly newsletter. Anybody who has a 100-watt ID gets a weekly, reader. And just let you know where we are, what we're going to be doing this weekend, that sort of stuff. And I was just down for the count. So I couldn't read a sentence, let alone write a sentence. It would have been the worst weekly reader of them all. So I know that.
Some interesting babble.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. The resilience of my children, though, is really impressive. I mean, Mama's a strong woman, professional ballet dancer her whole life and just strong physically, takes care of herself mentally and all this. laid out. You know, she weighs about $105. And so anytime she gets sick, he's out. And then, you know, I'm watching my kids who are dealing with it, and they're so resilient that all this is going on, but they're still pushing through with what they do and with how they play. And you know, just the strength of the children, I think, is interesting. And then the old man turns up, and I'm just like, well, damn.
You crumple. You just wither away, just crumple down.
I slept in this chair, like, you know, I'll get up, and I would wake up 5 a.m. Like, this is kind of normal, 5 a.m. And by like 6, out. Just fell out here. I'm like, out again. And so the kind of waves that come through. So anyway, I mean, I'm certainly not unique, but I can say that Steve and I were following this thing back in December of 19. I mean, the whole bit about Johns Hopkins, you know, looking at the studies and how they built. And oh my gosh, hundreds, thousands, whatever we were watching. And then it came and kind of crashed. And so it was, you know, we were running from it for 27 good old months. And next thing you know, hiding and all this, there it is. So it's not unique. It's just something I'm dealing with. So I appreciate your patience, but moreover, I appreciate you being here. And this sort of helps helps keep me focused a little bit at least, and gives me something to look forward to. So I didn't want to cancel on you. But anyway, Steve, what's going on with you? You talk for a bit. Scotty's here as well. We'll figure out how the week went. It looked like, according to the Discord, there was some real MF days going through the team here, like just struggles. Not this kind of struggle, but work-related struggle. Saw a picture you posted. I was like, oh, no. Tell us about your week, Steve.
Oh, well, I had 3 days of training, so I got to sit here in the shack for a couple of 3 days doing some virtual online training on some equipment, Nokia equipment, so doing MPLS training. And so it's good that I do it here because then I'm away from the rest of the family. And but then on the other hand, it's bad because I want to turn on the radio and see what's going on in the band, and I kept it off, and lo and behold, it was probably a good thing because the bands were hopping. And then the last couple of days, it went to poop, and then back to work on Thursday and Friday. So Thursday went up to, and that's where the picture was, up to one of our mountaintops up at about 4,000 feet, and it was just a muddy mess getting up to the site. And then it happens to be an outdoor cabinet, so I said, no, you know what it's like working outdoors. And and it decided to start snowing. It's like, really? So yeah, and then card failures and out of the box, the usual stuff that comes along. But kind of looking forward to the weekend here. Then now it's raining, so we'll have a little rain today, and then tomorrow should be pretty nice, and then back to rain again on Monday. So I'll
the
get
picture
a little
you sent,
time outside.
You sent it to me on a text. I was like, what's this from, December? So I didn't know, I saw the snow and his truck was all muddy. I'm like, hey, he must have just fat-fingered me a text from some other time. So I sent him back a dick pic. I didn't know. I'm just going to say it was like, I just figured like, hey, he's messing with me. I got the thing. So here's a picture for you, Steve. Turns out it was a real thing. And
the real deal.
So was mine. But it was so sorry. Oh, don't make me laugh. Yeah, I mean, like what the hell? Like, you ever see a Polish one? We don't get to share their stuff among the brothers enough, I guess. It's the virus, y'all. I can't help it. The things that are coming out right now are not right. But join the Discord if you haven't. And it's a good active place in between the shows where you can keep up with us and let us know what's going on. Scotty, what about you, man? I noticed an absence. You can kind of feel it in the social media channels when somebody has definitely, they're not there. They haven't given their reports on the weather or commented. What was headed your way this week, Scotty?
Yeah, I haven't been on the Discord much this week. Just a lot of plates in the air. I picked up a little part time job at the local hardware store, and that's turned out to be a bit more than I thought it was going to be. And Thursday, I was helping out with some deliveries of assembling some grills for some customers, and then I got thrown in the delivery van, and me and my friend Tim at work, my new work buddy, we were 13 hours on the road all around Howard County, Maryland, delivering grills all day.
Grills.
Yeah, barbecue grills, getting ready for the spring. And then some of you guys here behind the scenes know that my mom's been having some problems, and so last night she took a spill, and I was out she lives with my brother, and I was out there helping make sure she was okay, get her back up, and got rolled home about 1:30, 1:45 in the morning this morning, and I was like, all right, I got to get in the sack and get a couple hours and get back onto to get back on the show here this morning. So yeah, all my run of show updates have been all last minute or being performed at 3:00 in the morning in between all the chaos going on. So
Well,
good times.
Appreciate everybody being here and through all of what goes on. For me, I don't know how it is for you. It could be a giant pain. Contract time is when I hear how much of a pain it is for Steve. I haven't had to hear about that yet. But usually it's a place when we get like the show and then the Sunday evening net. It's a place to kind of gather with your friends in the community, and it's a cool way to start off. For me, it's like a therapy, if you will. So, Speaking of some of the work that Scotty does, he always lets me know what's going on this week in radio. Check this one out, May 6th, and we might have to get a little research here. Not to say this is wrong by any stretch. 1936, May 6th, WLS reporter Herb Morrison. You know old Herb. Well, if you don't recognize the name, he's the one who described the Hindenburg disaster in Lakehurst, New Jersey. And I remember studying just broadcasting. Do you know old Herb? I believe we might have to look this up. Somebody in the chat or one of our listeners will have to let me know. But I believe Herb was fired because he showed emotion on the air. That's the one. Tell me if I'm in a fog or not. But that's the humanity, and he showed this feeling,
And
sadness and
yes.
sorrow and emotions, and they fired him because of it. That was back in 1937. Oh, the humanity of that one. So that's a historic piece of audio. And imagine that. Imagine getting fired for showing some emotion about watching this incredible Zeppelin burst into flames, knowing that everyone on board would not make it. Or at least thinking
up a little bit. He was so traumatized by it, he actually dropped out of being a radio broadcaster. Never really got back into radio after he got cut, and he never kind of got back into it after that whole event.
That's a shame. I would too. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that, but the fact that he was fired for showing any emotion during it's such an emergency situation and a broadcast. I mean, it wasn't human nature. But that happened May 6, 1937. Steve, do you know anything more about that? I didn't want to move on unless you were ready.
No, I just remember it and seeing videos and then hearing the audio from him. I didn't realize that he got fired because of the humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pathetic, really. But back in those days, in the 1930s, who knows what men were, what was passable on the air. I guess he was supposed to say a certain thing. But I think about Walter Cronkite, when he let us know that John F. Kennedy had died, with a quiver in his voice, and this was America's authority. There has been, I would say, I don't know any other person since Walter Cronkite that had the authority in that seat to speak to America with straight truth, as we would say. I didn't know him of that time. It was before my time a little bit. But when he announced that John F. Kennedy was killed, it was definitive, it was emotional, it was heavy. And you could feel that in the broadcast. And thank goodness it's changed. Now everything is what's the right word? Salacious or salacious or whatever. Everything. If it bleeds, it leads. That's what they taught me in broadcasting school, and it sucked. Anyway, I'm now getting on a rant. I work for a guy, my Maryland brothers would know, Scotty would know, the dean, Vince Bagley, right? So I interned with Vince for 2 years, and Jerry Sandusky, but more with Vince Bagley, who recently passed away. Great guy. He didn't do scripts. He held little cards, and it made the producers crazy because he would just read these cards. And he didn't have the scripts. But anyway, I would practice writing his scripts because I needed something to do, but he didn't use them. So it was really no pressure on me. It was fun. Anyway, he would get so mad when the top of the news would start, and we'd be sitting there, and he was considered semi-retired at this, but this is an old school guy. He probably lived to be 90 or 92 or something like that. So in the early 90s, I don't know. He seemed like an older guy and had been around for a long time. Great Vince Bagley stories, I'll spare you. But a radio legend in Baltimore, Maryland, and maybe some of the tri-state, I don't know. Anyway, he got so mad because they led off with a story about the storm coming. The storm is coming, and, they would lead and they would tease it, and they'd go to commercial. And he would get so pissed off. He'd be like, why wouldn't they tell you the news? Like a big tornado is threatening to come down through the area, details coming up. And, it was to keep you listening and watching through the commercials. And it made him mental. And it really planted seeds in me watching this guy who I admired and, in many respects idolized him. He was quite untraditional, old schooler. Fire burns down warehouse. Details after this. Hated that. And he would tell you. Just old school. I don't know why I'm railing on this stuff. But anyway, I think that generation, has passed us. And it started maybe, people before me could say it was in the 80s. But definitely in the early 90s is when they really started. If it bleeds, it leads. Tease them through the spots. Give them the weather deeper into the show, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, I know in the 20s when, and I've heard stories of some of these radio stations that are now celebrating their 100th year of operating, is that when they got their authorization from I think it was Department of Commerce or whoever, it was prior to the FCC, that they were limited on what they could broadcast. And, like financial reports, news, there was no real entertainment and things. And so, kind of tying back to Howard, it was, I think, because that was in the 30s, it was still probably some kind of where the FCC was driving the content and the Decency Act and all that other stuff that, what could be on broadcast. And but that as society has changed over the years, so has broadcast, and and it comes into our hobby also. I mean, look at how we operated as radio amateurs back in the 30s and the 20s and the 40s to where we are today. I mean, go to 80 meters and it just like broadcast radio. Everyone just lets it hang, so to speak.
Ooh.
And yep, I was waiting for it.
I think you're gonna wear the Sorry Sherrie apparel, Sorry, like Sherrie. A scarlet letter. So
exactly. And so it's kind of interesting to kind of see how things have changed, not just in our hobby, but as in, broadcast radio, television, and society as a whole. I mean, we're just kind of a part of, society, and we're just a little bit of it. But there's a lot of us that want to retain the days of yore, but that's not going to happen. So.
Yeah. It's getting worse. There's so many channels, and they're out competing each other. I mean, this is just, I guess throw radio in here, but this is the intersection of life and amateur radio. So I appreciate anybody who, if you're living a life and you're rooted in radio, this is the type of show for you. Sorry, we're not talking about diodes at this moment.
Diodes and transistors, and flip flops.
It's all in us, right? We're more than that. We should be able to talk about that. But yeah, I had a thought and then I quickly lost it. But
The fog.
sorry, I'm gonna have to blame the fog on that. But anyway, yeah, Orson Welles, who is Spike mentioned Orson Welles. He did his War of the Worlds was a legendary. I have it here on vinyl, and I mean, people actually lost their minds. They lost their minds, and you know, he was a hero of mine in terms of he was a broadcaster. He did television. He did movies. He did it all himself and without the help. But anyway, that's a whole different lesson, a whole different show on Orson Welles and what he did. But straight news reporting has gotten so bad that we've become immune to what we're hearing. And I think that's the biggest problem of it all. In fact, I left NPR here locally after about 10 years because I was afraid I was going to get immune to hearing a roadside bomb kills 5 in Fallujah. Here's the sports score, you know what I mean? But it goes back to bring it all full circles. When I interned with a guy like Vince Bagley, you look him up, he did Baltimore Colts games, he did sports in Baltimore for many, many decades. There was seeds planted in me that I just feel like, you know, I have a hard time, you know, with a lot of what's happening. And I think it was just planted in me that's lame, you know, that's not cool. We're a service to tell people what's going on. If the storm's coming, you should say, look, let's not wait 6 minutes to tell people. And it was just an old school. I guess I'm dating myself now, but there you go. Anywho, what are your thoughts? If you guys have thoughts, drop it in the chat. Let us know. We know what TV news is today. It's just a competitive circle of
competitive
whatever.
What it is.
That's my thoughts exactly, Steve. It's a
Go
circle
ahead,
something or another.
Go ahead, circle jerk. Go ahead and define that, Scotty. I'm not familiar with that term. Competitive circle jerk. It sounds fascinating.
What happens at the Browns stays at the Browns.
Stays at the Browns.
I got it. I understand.
Just think around the world there, Christian, at the Browns.
Okay. Oh, wow. The cleanup crew at the Browns. Got it. Oh, that's a tough job. That's a tough job. Hey, let's tell the good people about our contest. You ready for that, Scotty? Let's talk to the people. We got some things that are actually amateur radio related today to pass on to you instead of our opinions on brain fog and jizz and getting problems out of the Browns. And a new thing I didn't know about was this competitive circle jerk.
Clean up at aisle 5 there at the hardware store.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Lord,
some amateur radio. That's right. Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes. There is a bunch.
That's why we're
bunch
here.
of stuff happening. There's a ton of QSO parties going on this weekend. We have the Delaware QSO party, Indiana QSO party, New England QSO parties all happening, and then a biggie, the 7th call area QSO parties are going on this weekend. So that's Oregon, Washington,
The 7
Montana,
CQP, yes.
Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and of course AK Alaska. So that is there's you can go to 7qp.org for some information on the 7th call area QSO party. So that's a lot of states to be able to grab this weekend. We also have the 1010 International Spring Contest is still going on this weekend. It's the CW, their CW version of that. I think last weekend was their digital version. This weekend, the Florida QSO party is happening. I guess later today it'll be kicking off. And so that's what I got for contests lined up for the weekend coming up. So yeah, so May 7th, a lot of those QSO parties. So kind of putting them out into the future a little bit. It's not, if I put them out today, then people listening to the podcast on Monday will be like, oh man, I missed all that stuff. So
Okay, cool.
setting them up for the weekend, for next weekend. Yep. Florida QSO party today.
Roger, 5'9". Yep, James lets us know that news is now entertainment, not news reporting. It's true. Another hero of mine is Paul Harvey. And when I was a young fella, Vince Bagley actually got me a gig running the board at a really small station in Aberdeen. And they ran, man, what did I say? I just lost my guy. Who was my guy?
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey.
Good day.
Good day. Page 2. I loved him. I ran the board for him, and I learned so much just listening to the guy, how he did it. And he would say, like, noise is news, and this was before he passed away. I have to look up. I don't know the date of when he passed, but this was all happening. Like the old school broadcast heroes of mine were very much like, news is noise, or the noise makes news. And he wanted to try to dig a little bit deeper. So I always appreciated what he did, but there you go. Steve, it is at that point now. Oh, let me go ahead and tell you why. I wish I could make it even more sexier. But you bring LDG into the room, baby. What you got there, girl? Oh, you're gonna tune an antenna? All right. Ooh, so sexy. Try this one. Family owned and operated. Sorry, LDG, I'm just going to give it to the fog. Family owned and operated. Ballons, Unins, those meters that we love. The sexy meter up in the shot up here. You can see. I won't cut to it at the moment, but because our listeners can't see that. They're world famous tuners. You can't look and not see an LDG somewhere around out there in the field, in the shacks. Customer service second to none. Visit them online, ldgelectronics.com. Everywhere you look, there's an LDG. All right. Great deal. Thank you for those tunes there. All right. What do we want to talk about? Antenna work, or my thought of talking about tuners and antennas? I don't know which direction. It's all in there. It's all in there. I'm thinking about letting the 705 go. Now, Big Ben, who actually, if you guys listen to an earlier podcast we just released before this one, is the Yaesu FT4XR or something like that. It's an HT, right? And Ben was on the cohort who did it. And so he sends me a note. I don't know if Ben wants me to talk about this, but anyway, he said it's all the fog. It's all coming out. I may send some stuff. I sent Steve a picture of my Johnson.
I can see Ben smirking and all as you're talking.
Well, he said I think he asked if I had done any editing, and I really don't. When I will edit the sections of the clips for the 30-day videos, and I'll put those chunks up there, but I'm not in there taking words out. You kind of get what you get here, right? So anyway, he said, I can't do his voice, but he's got this great voice, right? But he's got a Southern gentleman type. I can call it Southern, but he's like, I sound like a damn hick. And I was like, huh? What? Yeah, now he don't want. He's like, dude, what the hell? I don't want to talk about it. This is what you get. You send me these private messages, and not so private. It comes out. It's the virus. That's what you get. I don't think that way. So I'm like, I appreciate the accents, man. I really do. The differences in people, I really dig it. I got less of a Baltimore accent than, say, my mom, because the broadcast people were like, if you want to work outside of this market, you're going to have to stop saying some of these things.
Down the ocean, hon.
Yeah, like the O's, all the things around O. But I still have it in me, right? I still have it. But I had to kind of move away from that and get myself cognizant of things. But all the way up the East Coast, you would get it. You get Boston, you get New York has its own thing. Philly is very similar to Maryland and Baltimore in a way. Water. They drink the water. So it was good going to Philadelphia because it was similar but kind of different because you got Jersey mixed in. Jersey's got its own thing. So I always celebrate the accent. Ben, the only thing I can say about Ben is judging is he likes to watch dogs take dumps. And I think that's a little different. But, I guess I welcome it. Everybody's welcome here. But, somebody said something about making eye contact with a dog. taking a steamer, and I'm like, oh guys, what is this? And now there's other people in the Discord that are like, yeah, I want to get me one of those. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I'll send you the thing. But Ben, I celebrate your accent, man. I don't have a thing against it. But he was like, I sound like a damn hick. Like, nah,
No.
no. He says, you sound like you sound like you. All right, Paul says, I still remember Paul's delivery. Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey. And this was the rest of the story. I love it. The rest of the story, I believe his son has taken over now, and his son does some radio work. In fact, I recently sent his son a letter. Just, I couldn't meet Paul Harvey, but I did thank him for that. And I hope that they still run his stuff. You can still see it on YouTube. Plenty of it. It's great. The one who was at God Made a Farmer, he was a religious man, so that did come out through his work. But I think it's called Then God Made a Farmer, and it was put out a couple of years ago for, what was the big football game they talk about? The one at the end of the year. But and they played
Super Bowl.
That's it. And, it just reminded me, he did many things like that. God Made a Farmer. Like, go listen to that, man. There's nothing like that happening in radio today at all. But again, different rant. To sell the IC-705, yes or no? What do you think, guys? I'm being told Ben was like, you should take it to Montana first and then see what you think. And like, it may just not be for me. Steve, have you ever bought a radio and it's just, do you think it might not be a good fit for you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think
Good.
that it was. It's like, yeah, I think it would be cool. And then it's like, it didn't work out so well. So, but, that's the way it works out. Sometimes you kind of like, hey, this might work. But then, circumstances, now I'm getting into a little bit of fog. Circumstances change and it just doesn't play out. So, it comes down, and I know, now we've been, Don picked up the new 891 radio, and so now we're all kind of like, ooh, I need to throw a
raise your hand if you've been following this. Like Don's like, I want to get a Yaesu 891, and I didn't think anything of it, man. I'm like, yeah, like that, and then everybody, this might go back to that circle jerk thing you talked about. Our Discord does not have that aspect of it, but in a way, everyone's sort of talking about the 891, and it's like, wow, like, let me look this thing up. And, I was talking to a few people, and now it's like, I want that radio. I'm like, like a hole in the head. I need, I need the 891. I'm like, I got to have it. I need it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I went and looked it up, and it was like $639 from HRO, and it's like, damn, that's it's like, well, maybe I should go order one. I haven't ordered one yet. So
see, everyone wants an 891,
like
and
I need more.
I just got rid of mine.
I don't know. I thought about it. Everybody was like, yeah, 891. It's a great portable thing, and I think you give up a lot when you're used to like. And Yaesu has them. They're behind Steve. You can see if you're looking today in the chat room, you see the waterfall, and it doesn't have some of those features, but I'm looking at it like a possible, because I can't, I'm a watt snob, y'all. I want 100 watts. I would prefer if it had a tuner, but I understand it can't be that small and if they put it in there, then I'm just carrying around my 7300, which I'm inclined to do still when I travel to Montana. Good friend of mine said I'd kind of lean into taking the 705, but he doesn't really operate. He listens, and that radio sounds great, Steve. The 705 sounds so good. But I'm like, 5 watts, 10 watts, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I feel like I need all those watts.
I'm going to be an enabler. You can turn down the 891 to 5 watts if you want to run 5 watts.
See how it works around here? If you
see
want
how it is, we enable. We just
You're also the guy that told me to keep the 705. Keep it. Throw it in the corner, and guess where it is? It's over in the corner. It's over in the corner. I got a bag. It's been used one time. It is an excellent radio. It's an excellent radio, and it sounds great. And it was one of those things that I think I got it and I fell into this trap. And maybe this is the discussion that they can let us know. Have you ever fallen into this trap, this popularity trap? This was a new radio. Everybody had to have one. All the cool kids had, all the people were just talking about it. And for some reason, I decided I need to have the 705. And I knew going into this, because we had talked about it, it didn't have a tuner. And I think you and I'm just trying to remember. I could be completely lying right now. But I believe we talked about, like, I may wait for the next iteration of this, the one that has the tuner, because a lot of people were like, it doesn't have the tuner. It should have a tuner in it. I mean, it's, and it didn't. And a lot of people still went and got it. Well, here I go. And I just looked at the retail and I'm like, holy hell, it's a 1,300 and change radio that I got sitting in the corner, and somebody could use this thing. I've updated it because it's a software defined rig. I did the update on it. I went and took it out in the field. I used it. I made some contacts on the East Coast. May even work New Mexico. And I was like, okay. Like, it works. And it sounds so good, but I don't know that it fits me. And I'm at the point where I can't give it away. I can't take a bath on it because money is money. But I think there's just other people that could probably use it. So I think I'm willing to let it go. Steve, your thoughts?
Oh yeah. No, if you're not using it, then it's time to move on and go from there. And it's a great little radio. It's basically a 7,300 in a little box, and just runs 5-10 watts, and away you go. And yeah, it doesn't have a tuner like the 891, and but eventually ICOM came out with the companion tuner for it, but it's a pretty pricey little endeavor for that little tuner, and wide range tuner, so it works really well. So yeah, exactly, James. It's 705 is the QRP 7300, and so I think a lot of people got it that are not QRPers, more or less, because of the popularity of the 7300, the familiarity. I mean, it's now you can take this radio that you have in your shack and you're familiar with, and all the features and controls, and now you have it in a little portable unit. And it's a brilliant move from ICOM's point of view. But in your case, it's like, well, I've only used it once, and you're like me, kind of a watt snob, and I look at it, well, I can always turn down a 100-watt radio to go down to 10 watts, 5 watts, and operate QRP. But with a little small radio like the 705 or the G20, the Zygoos, or the 807, I think was the Yaesu 5-watt radio. You can't get beyond that. So, and not to bag on the QRP operators, it's just not my style. I need that triple digits of RF, but that's me.
Crank up the radio.
Go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah,
what do
baby.
you want to say about that?
Oh yeah, I'm in the same boat. I have a hard enough time being heard at 100 watts or 130 or 40 watts if I'm running the boat anchor over here. But yeah, the 891, it was great radio, and I got it because I had just gotten into POTA, and I was like, yeah, everyone's running the 891, and it's a great rig, and so I saved up and picked one up, and I took it out on a couple activations, and yeah, it is a great rig. I even ran it in my car for a little while, and realized that HF mobile wasn't really my thing. I have the VHF and UHF in the car, but I have, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, I have an old FT 450D that was my first HF rig, and I love it to death. And it's it's not the smallest radio, but it's not super large either. And it's 100 watts. It's got a little built-in tuner, and I have it mounted in a 4 rack space kind of rack bag thing that I used to use for mic preamps when I was doing remote recording. And I have a little MFJ tuner in there, as well as a Kenwood TM281, and it's all kind of nice and self-contained. And I got a little Anderson power pole fuse block in the back, and so when I go out, if I go camping, I just grab that, and and I'd take the 891 with me, but it would just stay in the box, and I just set up my 451 in the case, and I have a little LED light strip that I put in the top of the front opening, and that was just my go-to. And then after a couple years of the 891, just kind of sitting on the sidelines, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna let it go. So not anything wrong with the 891. It's fantastic. It's just for me, it just wasn't for me. So.
You had an abundance of good. Like, that's the thing. When I'm around my place, I can take the 703 out. I can throw it in the back of the truck. If I'm flying anywhere, now that we're all flying again a little bit more and we're getting around, I'm thinking like, okay, it's not insurmountable to take the the 7300. It's just heavier. There's a little bit, and I want to take it because it has the tuner in there, and I'm like, I'll do it. But then I'm like, oh yeah, like there's another option out there. So if you're interested in the 705, I would consider it. Just drop me a line if you're interested in that. I know supplies. I got to have Paul be my agent there. He says it holds 90% of its resale value, and the supply problems persist. I'm like, there's my agent right there. If you're interested in that, QRP is your thing. I would think that's something. Anyway, one of the coolest radios I've seen Steve pull out is when we went out and did tune-up or Fallout, like it's last year, and he was out.
Fallout, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this radio's got a built-in power supply, and I don't know, what is it, 200 watts out, some crazy thing. I don't know what that was.
100 watts.
100 watts out, built-in power supply, sexy as hell. And I was like, oh, is that it? Let me see if I can pull you up there.
Ooh, right now.
He brought that monster out, and I was like, ooh, what is that?
So for the ones that are listening on the audio, it's the Yaesu FT1000 MP. So it's a big radio, and took it out. It was one of those that it was has a built-in power supply. All I got to do, I'm already dragging an extension cord for power, so it's like I don't need to deal with the power supply. I just plug it into the power strip and off I go. Right. And that's what I ended up using as a set up a table outside the shop here, and set up a off-center fed dipole between the towers, and went to town. And
awesome.
Yeah, it was different. It wasn't your 891, which is this little itty bitty tiny thing. This was a full-on big monster dual receive FT1000. Took up a lot of space on the table.
I don't know. James is asking me what the price on this. Looking at it, it's not retail because I've owned it. It's sat here for a while. It's in the backpack. I think I got rid of the box because I thought the box was pretty tacky. I have all the boxes for every radio I have, including the Drake TR7. But the box for the 705 was, I don't know, it was just a little different. And then I had the backpack for it. And so it's just kind of sitting in the deal. But they retail, which I was a little surprised that they're still that high, because you could get, a 7300 within that range. It's like $1,350, $1,325. A DX Engineering, Gigaparts. I don't know. I would consider something reasonable. It doesn't need to be that, but I don't want to take a bath. The bag on it's a couple hundo, so anything that's reasonable, I would listen to. Anyway, I'm not pressed. Steve was like, just put it in the corner. Okay, just do this. All right. No, there you go. You ready to take some questions, Steve? We got some questions that came in that we could talk about, and Scotty is following the progress of the chat. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it. And remember, if you're listening to the podcast after the live recording, you're always welcome to come here. You may want to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're already a subscriber to the podcast, but click the notification bell on YouTube, and that lets you know. But generally speaking, 9 o'clock Central, we do the live recording, and you're welcome to come and hang out in the chat, and then you can ask your questions there too. Email works. It's all good. It all finds its way back home. All right. Hopefully this isn't going to cover up Scotty's face, but if it does, here we go. First question. A whip is a wire, yes? Jim wants to know. A whip is a wire, right? Oh, no. Sorry, Sherrie. No, let me
I was waiting for
Whip
that.
me, beat me, make me feel cheap.
let me explain. Oh, jeez.
We're going off the rails already with the first question.
Now, I remember Dr. Bob once saying that it's all a wire, even like the aluminum, that you got up there is a wire. And I never really understood that. So I kind of feel where Jim's coming from. A whip, I've always kind of equated to like a mobile thing, like a mobile antenna. What's the difference here, Steve?
A whip could be, just which was common for many years, was a 100-inch whip antenna that was stainless steel rod that was used in the 11-meter band and used here in amateur radio also. So as far as RF is concerned, whip, wire, aluminum, whatever conductor it is, it's what it is. It's going to just radiate off of it. Some will be a little more efficient than others, but for the most part, electrically, they're the same. Physically, they're not. So typically a whip will be able to be self-supporting and stand up on its own, where a wire will kind of get floppy and it won't be able to stand up on its own. So, I mean, for the...
You'll be in there Monday.
Sherrie, I'll be there.
I can't form the sentences to get you out of this one.
Yeah, Sherrie, I'll be there. But as far as RF is concerned and for operating on the radio, they're essentially electrically the same. Physically, they're different.
Okay. Ben says it's a
stiffy.
stiffy. It's a stiffy.
Yep, the whip is a stiffy. See, this is why we have Ben here. We got that redneck common sense. I love it.
That's culturally inappropriate, I think. But I guess if
Be
he
proud.
says it, call for your, what is it? Cultural appropriation. Ben, you've got a case. Actually, you got a case now. Take it to HR.
Steve, you've been culturally appropriating the Southern folks.
David has actually been called in for a piss test. Whip me, beat me, make me write bad checks. Is what David says. We know he's in Colorado and is a gummy bear enthusiast.
Nothing wrong with that.
There you go. And there's a question from Paul here. It's a real question. A hot dog is a sandwich, right? It's a slippery slope here, Paul. Go ahead, Steve. Talk about the buns. We're going in anyway.
Not going there.
Oh, Lord. This is why I do this. This is why I do this, is I get a good laugh here. Good morning, Bruce. All right, another question. If you have a question and you're here visiting with us in the live stream, put a Q in front of it, and we'll try to get through those as we're heading through the show today. Another question. Sorry, Scotty. I'm using 100 watts with a dipole in the attic. I can't get out of North America. Any suggestion on how to improve my setup so I can work international stations? That one's from Lee.
Well, if you're got the dipole in the attic, ideally getting more height, getting it up, it will help. But you're just going to have to wait for the bands to improve. And so what bands are you operating right now? Once the upper bands like 15 and above start to come into play, then maybe you'll be able to operate more international. I'm just kind of thinking just with the angle of the dangle, or your takeoff angle based on 40 meters or lower, is going to be a little more local NVIS. So
new T-shirt coming your way. It has something to do with, let's see here,
100
your
watts and a
takeoff
wire.
angle. Yeah, the angle of your takeoff angle.
New shirt coming your way. Something about your takeoff angle. We'll be working on that one. Your takeoff angle. It only sounds dirty.
I like it.
100 watts and a wire.
Thank you, Earl.
News.
There you go.
So yeah, more or less, it's your setup is acting more NVIS. So and thanks Patrick in the chat mentioning that. But as you go higher in frequency, your antenna is going to be more efficient for lower angle takeoff radiation, and you should be able to work some international stations here soon.
I've got a
So
question in the chat, and
keep trying.
this should encourage you to go ahead and send questions. We take life; it's life and amateur radio. We're dealing with everything here, as you can see before you. James asked, has anyone thought about using conductive paint on PVC pipe for SCARP antenna?
I've heard people talk about using conductive paint, but I don't know.
Is there paint that you
It's
shouldn't use on your antennas? Because I remember, with the hex beam, it was very gray, and the maker said, it'll blend in with the sky. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to need so I wanted to paint mine black, and there was some sort of paint that I was advised not to use. Is there a paint not to use?
yeah, mainly on so if you have a dual band vertical antenna like a diamond or comet, the white fiberglass, and some people want to paint it to kind of disguise it or blend it in the background, and so there's paints that you really don't want to use because there's metal in it, and it will have an effect on the antenna. So yeah,
Right.
you have to find the right paint. So as far as on the spreaders for the hex, I don't think that would be that big of a problem, but it could be. Maybe someone has tried it and had adverse effects, but I haven't researched any of that.
Okay. All right. Another question that came in throughout the week. What is the proper way to get into a conversation with those who are already in a QSO? John wants to know, what's the proper way to get into a conversation with those who are already in a QSO? If you're new to amateur radio, QSO is Q speak for a conversation. You'll hear that on the air. There's a bunch of these terms, but he's asking an etiquette question here, and I think that's a very good question.
That is a good question. Myself personally, if I want to get into a conversation, I usually just kind of in between the two stations, I'll just throw my call sign out, and that's it. Whether they recognize it or not, some will use break, but I think the more eloquent way of doing it is just put your call sign in there and wait to be recognized by the other party. And if you're not recognized, don't worry about it too much, because there are guys that they just want to talk amongst themselves and they don't want to have anybody else, because they're kind of on a roll going back and forth. They got a rhythm going back and forth, and they don't want to be interrupted by an outsider. So don't take it personal. But for the most part, most people will recognize you if you just throw your call sign. I've heard others, and it's happened to me many times. People will say comment, and that's another way. Or Paul brought up contact, but I found for me, I just always put out my call sign and then wait for them to recognize it, and then go from there. It's break is, some people kind of get they get their panties wadded up when they hear the word break. So I avoid that. Contact, comment, or I just go my call sign.
100 watts and a wire. News.
We have a report coming in from Todd that says ISS is overhead, Scotty. Let's go to Scotty's control room and see what we can hear.
It is actually. I had to turn. I heard. I had to turn my radio down. I just happened to have it. There it is. There. Yeah. It's sinking. Sounds like Phil for a second.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, yeah. That's ISS
Well, thank
flying
you.
over. Thanks
Thank
for
you
the heads up,
the,
Todd.
breaking news there. Chris has a question. Which lightning arresters do y'all prefer, Alpha Delta or Poly Chaser? I'm not familiar with that one. I like the Alpha Delta because you can replace the gas discharge tube. He's Whiskey 5, Charlie United, Yankee. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
Polyphasers for me, but that's more of a commercial product.
Okay. Paul also reminds us that break equals emergency, possibly. So saying break may mean something
Typically, it was like the convention was break. Break was an emergency. Break was urgent, and but in the public safety realm that I participate in, we use break as to break the message, so and then redirect it. So making a transmission to one unit, and then or acknowledging them, then I'll say break, and then direct my transmission to dispatch or another unit, and then so we use that in that realm. Message handling, break is used to signify the end of a message and then the start of or a sentence and start another one. So there's a lot of different connotations on break, so I avoid it as far as trying to join a conversation and going back to where I just throw out my call sign.
Question for Scotty. We can give this one to Scotty. Paul wants to know, what frequency is ISS?
Yeah, I saw that. I was just typing it in. The uplink is on VHF 145.990, and the downlink, which is what we were listening to on my UHF rig, UHF 437.800. I think the PL tone is 100 hertz for both up and down. But yep, 145.990 on to get to it, and 437.800 to have a listen as it's flying by.
All right, we should go over to our special events and Hamfest. We can still answer some questions. Open forum type now. Just put a Q in front of it. You can ask anything. We've had questions about hot dogs and buns and putting hot dogs between buns, and is that sandwich? There's a question about circle
stiffy,
jerks.
a limpy,
A stiffy. The whole thing about the cleanup at the Brown. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just put a Q in front of it, then we can pull it. And
doesn't matter.
When I said pull it, I didn't mean, like now. You know what I mean? Put a Q in front of it, no matter what, and we'll try to take care of it as fast as we can. Let's go into the special events and Hamfest that are happening this weekend.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I just pulled a couple for the show. We have the Warminster Amateur Radio Club in Bristol, Pennsylvania. It's got their on May 1st. That's tomorrow. Got their Hamfest happening next weekend. Just to give a little heads up. Southwest Idaho Radio Swap Meet in Meridian, Idaho is having their big shindig. Also May 7th, the Cochise Amateur Radio Club's having their Hamfest in Sierra Vista, Arizona. So that'll be kind of cool. And then there's a special event station operating May 7th, 9th, and 10th. Whiskey 7 Gulf will be celebrating National Train Day. It commemorates the driving of the Golden Spike in Promontory, Utah, marking the completion of the first transcontinental railroad in the U.S. So that'd be a fun special event station. Nice. Starting up on the 7th. So that's what I pulled together for today's episode.
Wonderful. And that portion of the program is brought to you by Uncle Paul's Pickled Nuts. Too big for your average mason jar. Get them by the barrel. Visit Uncle Paul's Pickled Nuts. Only sold in, what's the town he's in? New Jersey. Toms River, New Jersey.
Toms River, New Jersey.
It's
barreled and sold in Toms River, New Jersey.
.com.
While they're hot.
So that's the complete URL. Uncle Paul's Pickled Nuts, sold exclusively in Toms River, New Jersey. Then what was it? Barreled in Freehold and distributed by PastorJoe.com. So hopefully you got that.
/barrel strength.
So thank you for that. All right, I thought I saw another question come in. Does anyone miss the blue light specials at Kmart? I remember that as a kid. I remember those growing up on the East Coast. They would have like Ginsu knives. And my mother.
Ginsu. Wow.
You remember that? Yeah, I'm telling you, Ginsu knives. They had a serrated.
Cans and then tomatoes.
They had a serrated and a tip. Oh, well, it had this. Oh. Like don't even describe the tip. Okay, we can't talk about the tip. Ginsu's, they would cut through cans and stuff like that, and the tip had like a V. It had like a V tip, and then a serration. It would cut everything. It was the blue light special. Yeah, thanks for that memory. That one actually hurt.
Ginsu knives. That was fun.
And it would draw a crowd. Greg says, whenever I heard blue light special, you knew to stay away from that area. Too crowded and crazy. Yeah, it was when you would get abducted. That's what my mother would say. You go over there and somebody would disappear under the thing. And okay, I'll stay away from that.
Get crushed, son.
Yeah, Kmart had them, and so did you guys. I don't know. You wouldn't know. We had a place called Two Guys. You might not have heard of Two Guys. It could have only been one, but they also had a blue light special. They were trying to. Two Guys. The Two Guys blue light special was something I probably shouldn't have brought up. Oh Lord, I'm telling you, it's the virus has got me. But yeah, it was a real.
Blame it on the fog.
Blame it on the fog, man. Gotta blame it on something. Okay, let's see. Anybody have any more questions? We got up to an hour. You guys have been very patient with me and this voice and this crazy team that we have here. If there's any more questions, go ahead and drop them in. But want to remind you about Sunday evenings. We have our HF net. I don't know that I can call for an hour. We probably will have an audible because my focus is just crap right now. And it's getting better. I think it'll be better, but I may not be able to put out that energy. We'll do the live stream, and we'll kind of see how we'll adjust. But keep an eye on the socials, 7 o'clock Central Time, no matter how we go. We start on 20, we start on 40. The top of that first hour, Steve may decide to move over. See, I got a little, say too many words. But yeah, so that's still going to happen, and we'll be in the stream, and we'll hang out, because it is fun to kind of, end the week with friends. There's a lot of camaraderie there, and we hang out and sort of close out the week together, and you're all invited. And we're in the stream. You get the best of both worlds. You can hang out. If you can't be near your radio, you're near the chat here in the stream. If you're by your radio, you can make contact with the team and all that sort of stuff. So that's that. What else did I miss? Oh, Facebook is still going, quite active, 14,400 I noticed today, because Uncle Paul likes to have those numbers. He shares those numbers on the net. So that's doing quite well. Over 600 on Discord. It's a friendly group. And, some feedback I wanted to talk about a little bit. From our conversation last week, we talked about club participation, and, you kind of see the same things in the social media too. Even the biggest of YouTubers, right? They may have 50,000 or 80 or 100, 200, a million. There's a percentage of the people who are engaged in what they're doing. And it seems to be similar with our clubs. And people were writing, were like, man, I thought I was the only one. I got a couple of messages. Jocelyn, who's in Ohio, wrote, and he thought he was the only one, and I won't go into detail about what he said, but I think it is something that is, like Steve said and Scotty said last week, it goes across platforms, across different clubs. The Weaving Basket Weavers Guild probably has the same amount of people doing that amount of work. But nice feedback from that one.
Nice, good.
So I don't know.
No, that's been something that's been going on for quite some time, and it's just like we said last week. It's not just clubs; it kind of spreads all over with everything, and it's just the way it is. The way I kind of accept it. It'd be nice to have more people participate and be part of it, and get in there and work. But it's just everyone's has different challenges in their lives, and so some can't participate, others they don't want to, but they want to be participate financially as far as paying dues for the club, and there's also others that they want to have that as a sign of, well, I'm a member of this club, this club, this club, and it's like, well, do you do anything with them? No, but it's we do what we do, and we're motivated by our individual needs. So it's it was a good discussion, and it's tough. So yeah, typically 10% is what's doing the work of any organization.
Well,
doing the majority of it.
I think it crosses over. It came. I mentioned it, or I didn't mention it. I saw Paul mention it, and he was interested in finding out how the bands were going and what contacts people were. He was mixing it up, which is cool. He's engaging. He's asking people, and even among 600 or 50 or whatever it is. The tone of his post was kind of like, come on, guys, like, let's talk about what you're doing. There's so many people in here. But I think that's a good representation of how things are when we put questions out on Facebook. Okay, you have 14,000 and change, right? 14,400. Well, I may get 100 answers tops. Like, that's a good amount of feedback. So
that's a good response. Yeah,
and we use it, and we get in and we dig into all those comments. They're important. So my point is the engagement in anything, whether it's social media or if it's whatever, seems to be that you're only dealing with a certain amount of people who are, ready to kind of to mix it up. I find like putting a question out there, like, the hot dog in the sandwich type thing, it cracks the ice for people, Other people will start to ask questions, like Spike. Spike's got one. Let's see. I don't know if I can read all that. What does that question say, Scotty? I get fogged out. You see that?
Spike's asking, under the current call sign assignment system in the U.S., how many potential U.S. amateur call signs are tied for being the longest to send on CW?
Oh, he gave his own answer, it looks like.
Oh, was this like a trivia thing?
Oh,
162.
I'm glad he had the answer because I didn't know. I didn't know that. All right, well, hang on.
I know
go to the Googles.
I know there's a CW weight that is can kind of be assigned to your call sign, and it just happens. It's a CW thing. So, but I think what is it? N5EE would be probably the shortest, because on the weight wise, but 162. Wow. Nice one there, Spike.
All right. If there's no further questions for today, I guess we got you buttoned up, and we'll let you guys go. Thank you for adjusting for us and putting up with this voice that I've got and all that, and your well wishes and all that. Stay safe, of course. Did we forget anything, Steve? Scotty, what we make it?
I think we covered. I think we made it. We made it to the finish line.
Oh, thank goodness.
Despite driving in the fog.
Driving in the fog, yeah. All right, we made it. Woo! Woo! Yeah, you get a Ric Flair. We actually did it. We almost stuck the landing too. Pardon me. Sorry about that. All right, guys, take care of yourselves and each other as best that you can. And remember, noise is news, according to Paul Harvey, and we want to try to, by all means, to try to stay above noise. 73, guys, we'll see you guys next time, and hopefully we'll get you into the check-ins. Do you guys want to do a little overtime or no? No?
I'm up for it. If you're feeling up to it, Christian, I'm always down to hang.
All right, we'll break away from the listeners here and give the folks that were able to stop by a little extra sauce. Remember, you're welcome always. Our listeners are the lifeblood of the show. It's been a podcast since the beginning. This is an interesting way to kind of get you engaged through the live stream. We can get you into the show and hear what's going on in your life as well. So that's fun. It does not live on YouTube. It's just the vehicle for recording it. So 7-3, thanks for everybody who did come by, and thanks for you guys who listened. We'll catch you next time.
7-3, everyone.
7-3.
Oh, I like that.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsindawire.com.